Hello, welcome to Radical Fishing, where we're going to talk about anarchism while we fish. I'm going to try and radicalize you. So, I've grown up on the river my whole entire life, and so we grew up learning how to oyster farm and learning how to fish, but I think in my whole life I've caught probably about 5 fishes, or less. So, maybe today we'll make that a 6. Yeah, if you ask me, well, what bait do you have, Blossom? Or, what's your reel? I would answer, I have no idea. In fact, I don't even have bait on. The way I fish as well is just to do this, and I don't know if that's right or not. But you know what? It feels fun. So yeah. Okay, what have I been thinking about lately? Perfect cast. Lately, I have been thinking of the way that we use our language to enforce subtle hierarchies on people. And something that I've been thinking about in particular is the word respect, and how I fully just do not believe that we should be using it anymore. And I think that when most people mean respect, we actually mean something entirely different. And I'm a big fan of, abolish the word respect. I'm snagged again. Fuck me. This person next to me has just caught a fucking fish. How are they doing it? I'm obviously doing something wrong. Damn. Jealous. That's all I'm catching. Fucking hell. Yes, so something that I've been thinking about recently is the word respect, and how I fully don't think it exists. So, I have a couple points. Okay? I've written them down, but they're not going to make any sense whatsoever. At the same time that I've been thinking about language and about how we use it, I've also been getting into something called anarchism. What is anarchism, you may ask? Anarchism? I mean, there's a lot more smarter people on here who explain it better, but to me, it's about hierarchies, and it's about eliminating hierarchies, because all hierarchies lead to oppression. And so when we talk about hierarchies, like when I first heard about anarchism, I was like, give me a break, come on, all hierarchies lead to oppression? Okay, sure, we can never have teachers, we can never have, people in leadership positions. No, do not mean that. We can have people in leadership positions if, those leadership positions are based on skills and expertise, but hierarchies are inherently oppressive and coercive. And if you're like, shut the fuck up, well, fair enough. But I would challenge you to think about the people in your life, the hierarchies in your life that you may have, and think about whether it's good or bad. So think about the inherent hierarchy of your parents, or the inherent hierarchy of your eldest siblings. Do those relationships, or the inherent hierarchies of your bosses or middle management, do those relationships feel free and equal to you? Or do they feel like they're sometimes tinged with coercion? I mean, it's up to you to think about, but once I was introduced to that concept, I found it really interesting, and I started to think about all my relationships, and I started to think about how we do have a lot of the kind of these useless hierarchies in our society, and they do kind of lead to oppression, and not even just in the, your interpersonal relationships, but in also societal and cultural relationships, our class hierarchies, our government hierarchies, and I think that once you start going down that road, it's actually really, really, really interesting. And so I went down that path. Now I'm a full-fledged anti-hierarchy. I hate a good hierarchy. Give me a hierarchy and I'll hate on it. So when you kind of realize, all hierarchies are a little bit, not the best thing in the whole entire world, I started thinking about, how are ways that I'm enforcing my hierarchy? I'm one of 4 kids, so I have a younger brother and 2 older sisters. And I started to think about the way that I talk to them, the way that I talk to my younger brother versus the way that I talk to my older siblings. And I noticed that the way that I talk to my brother is different. The way that I talk to my siblings, I had a lot more of that word, respect, come in. And then to my brother, I kind of talked to him a little bit more I knew more than him, he's 3 years younger than me, like, oh, I know, you know, I don't know, the way that you talk to your little siblings, so much love and care, but also probably like a little bit too protective and like a little bit too, you know, I know more than you, bro, just like, listen to me, bro. You know, I demanded that from him, you know, oh, like, listen to me, you know. And so I kind of noticed that those were like these red flags. And the way that I was speaking, I was enforcing hierarchy upon other people. And so started to think about what I can do in my language to lessen that. So something that I've been working on is removing the words you shouldn't and you can't from my language. So like, we don't realize it, but oftentimes like those words are actually very, very you know, they instantly stop the other person. So like, I think oftentimes I cook, I'm a great cook. So great cook, wife material over here. I'm a good cook, and my partner is learning to cook, and they're also an amazing cook. But sometimes when I watch them in the kitchen, you know, I have a certain way of doing things, and they may ask me for advice. I'll say, oh boss, you know, what do you think I should do with this? And it's very hard. I've noticed it's very hard not to jump in and be like, oh, you should do it this way. Don't do it that way. You know, like, don't do it that way. You should do it this way. You should do it this way because X, Y, Z. Or whatever. And even though my intention is good, my intention is to help them out, and my intention is to show them a correct way, in the same instance, I'm actually limiting their thinking, and I'm enforcing my hierarchy by thinking that my way of doing something is instantly the better way. And so I've been trying to remove those words from my language, and I found that's actually really fucking good. Like, never assuming that your way of doing something is inherently the better way. It actually really improves the relationships that you have with other people, and it actually really, I feel like, just opens you up to doing things in so many more different ways. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but that's how I've been thinking about language recently. And so, back to the original point. Ooh, that was a good cast. Back to the original point about respect. So, number one, I think that when we think about respect, we're actually thinking about something else entirely. Trust, admiration, whatever. Number two, respect is demanded. So that's another thing. When we think about authority, when we think about hierarchy, and as I said earlier, like thinking about respect from that thing that we often give those above us, in the same instance, respect is often demanded. It's not a two-way street. And it enforces hierarchy, and it enforces superiority. So like something that I've been thinking about a lot is I've been doing my first foray into the corporate world. Christ. And you often hear the word respect, especially in corporate culture, being thrown around, you know, especially pointed towards those who are like your business's leaders. You hear it a lot. And I don't know, personally for me, I will never respect somebody just because they are in a position above me, but it feels like, and you know, maybe you fully disagree, that's totally fine. You can't argue with me because you're a camera. You're instantly expected to respect those above you within a business. And that is without necessarily having that leadership prove themselves or do anything in particular to earn your respect, rather than it's just them being higher than you in a business. And that's fair. Like there's, you know, and I feel like the fact that that is instantly demanded is like another big red flag for the word respect. Because if we replace that word respect with something like trust, well, what have those people in the you know, hierarchical positions done to earn your trust, you know, earn your admiration? Like, don't get me wrong, I admire my bosses, you know, I trust in their opinion, I trust that they have the you know, correct opinion most of the time, but I don't instantly go in and respect everybody in a hierarchical position above me. But the fact that that is often expected, that's point number two, is respect is often demanded and expected. Right? And can you ever have like a true relationship, you know, without hierarchies with somebody if you are demanded to feel a certain feeling towards them? That was exciting. Oh, sorry. I think I'm on your line. I was like, oh, I've got something. Point three, relationships are actually better with trust removed. So we kind of touched on this earlier. True. Not trust. I'm not against the word trust. Abolish the word trust as well. Let's just never use language again. Relationships are better with respect removed. We kind of touched on that earlier about like talking about like how you talk to like your younger siblings differently than you talk to your older siblings because of that inherent kind of like respect. But I think relationships are better when you remove the element of respect entirely, or the presumption of respect. So my partner does a lot of work with kids. They have been working with kids their whole entire like lives, basically. They've been teaching from like a very young age, and they currently work in before and after school care. And they get their fair share of super rural-y kids, super like anti-authoritarian kids, which is like saying, bro, I relate to you, kid. Oppositional defiance disorder, sometimes I feel like I have that. But they have their fair share of kids who are very, very not receptive to authority whatsoever, and will go out of their way to do the opposite of what everyone tells them to do, you know? And that obviously causes a lot of problems for the kids, for the parents, and it also makes it very hard to look after that kid. So why I feel like I might not be catching anything? Because I'm just raw dogging this hook on the fishing line. Like no sinkers, no spacers, nothing. I don't understand why you need a sinker and a spacer. Yeah, I feel like I'm probably not catching fish because of my own fault. Look at how cute that looks. If I was a fish, I would so bite that. I think as well, I choose all my fishing spots not based on how likely the fish is to be there, but based on how beautiful it looks. And I don't think that's the way that fish are determining whether to be here or not. Yes, and so they have these kids who are super against authority, against hierarchy, and who are super like trouble kids, like absolute trouble kids, will always say no to everything that you ask them to do, like just like if it's an authority figure saying it, they're like, not happening, bro. And they've noticed that a lot of the times those relationships are improved when you take the authority out of it, when you take that presumption of respect and disrespect out of it, and you say to the kids, hey kid, you know, like I want to give you, you know, like I'm not just your teacher, I'm not just this position of authority over you, like I want to look after you, I want to trust you, I want to give you trust, but to do that you're also going to have to trust me. And making it a thing about trust, like making it about a thing about that kid knowing that you have their best intentions, you have their best intentions in mind, not just because you should listen to me because I'm your authority figure, but you should listen to me because I want to, you know, work with you to look after you and to make it so that you're having fun, you know, when you go to this after school thing that they teach at. I don't want you to be constantly fighting against me and hating me. I want you to, be enjoying this as well. So how can we work and build that trust for each other? And so by taking that presumption of respect, that presumption of, oh, this kid is so disrespectful, this kid doesn't respect me, by taking that out of the relationship and by building the foundation of trust instead of that presumed respect, then you actually have a lot more better relationships with people. Not just with kids, but with, you know, everyone in your life, especially people who look up to you because you might be like an authority figure to them or whatever. Ooh. Because like I feel like teachers are probably like outside of our family are probably our first interaction with authority as a young kid. And so we probably all grew up with a favourite teacher, I know that I did, who we felt particularly drawn to. And it wasn't necessarily because they were the most senior teacher or, you know, the most experienced, but it was probably more because you felt like they trusted you and they saw you much more than other teachers did. And they didn't necessarily just treat you like a kid, like the way that adults treat a lot of kids, which is, very, very hierarchical. And I'm not saying that like there isn't a time and a need for parents to be like, hey, listen, like I know more than you, you know, especially to keep your kids safe, you know, like you need to just listen to me without question. But our relationships are much more improved, I think, if we're not constantly doing that all the time and we're really conscious of that we're doing that. And I think that's kind of how respect leads into that, is when kids do question adults, it's often seen as disrespectful, where it's like, well, how are we enforcing a hierarchy that is actually really isolating to kids? And is kids always saying like, oh, you know, like is kids talking back being seen as disrespectful, is that a way that we're actually, ruining our relationships with kids by not actually letting them have an equal voice? And I don't know, I think it applies to like a lot of other relationships we have. But yeah, I don't know if that point makes sense, but if you get it, you get it. Relationships are better when we remove respect and we instead replace it with something like trust, admiration, or appreciation. My very last point, is that this one might be controversial. Oh my god, can I not do a knot? Fish bites that's definitely coming undone. Back to I feel like, look at that. That's so appetizing. If I was a fish, look at that. That looks like an actual tiny little fish. Last point is, I'm going to invert it. Is disrespect is a way to exclude neurodivergent people and also a way to other people. As well, like, I'm neurodivergent myself. And I feel like, maybe just because of the way that I am, I don't feel like I'm as in tune to a lot of the social rules, or maybe I just ignore them, that we kind of typically have. So when you perhaps accidentally cross a social rule, it's seen as disrespectful, where in reality you're just like vibing, like you did, the way that we have this kind of like rule of respect around everything, and if you kind of cross that line, it's seen as disrespectful and shameful. It's like, is that really like, I don't know, is that really like a good thing? It's just such an easy way that we categorize somebody as, not doing the right thing. Obviously, respect, just like anything, is societally made up, and it's based on our version of normality. The same goes for disrespect, and so I feel like the way that we treat the word respect and disrespect as this concrete thing, as this thing as, oh, you have to be respectful. Being respectful is being like this. Well, it's actually not true. Like, respect is very fluid, and it's something that is difficult to define. It's so difficult to define, and it's difficult to, and it varies across cultures. So I feel like when we remove that element of respect and of disrespect, you're actually opening up to a lot more of a conversation about, well, why do I think what this person is doing is wrong? Why do I think, what this person is doing is disrespectful? Is it because I believe that they're not trusting me? Is it because I believe that they're not hearing me? You actually open it up to a lot more emotional connection and a lot more emotional conversation than just, oh, they're being disrespectful. Really. Another point on disrespect that I wanted to just like super quickly speak about, and whilst I speak, have a look at this beautiful graffiti that was right next to where we are fishing at. Instead of saying, it's meant to say no wash, make no waves in direction indicated. People have said no wash, make more waves in directions indicated, and drew the boat as a balls. That is classic Brooklyn, never change. But on disrespect, when we personally feel disrespected as well, I often think it's because our ego has been challenged. Like, I'd like to think of a time in your life where you felt disrespected. You felt like somebody was being disrespected to you. It's often, or at least in my case, coming from a perspective of they're challenging my authority. Whether that's, oh, I feel disrespected by my subordinate, or I feel disrespected by, my theoretical kids. It's often from that perspective of they're challenging your authority on the stance. And that, to me, is like super hierarchical. And it's often not necessarily coming from a position of, I feel as though they don't trust me, like me, or whatever, or maybe it is, but it's coming from that perspective of a damaged ego, of a damaged sense of self. You feel as though they are not seeing you or perceiving you in the way that you are and that you should be perceived as. And so I feel like that's also like a super important bit of respect and disrespect, is from that perspective. Is that a correct thing that we should be using? Should we be viewing people's oppositions to our opinions as inherently disrespectful? Is that limiting how we are interacting with the world around us? And is that enforcing our hierarchy? I personally think that it is enforcing our hierarchy. So whenever I personally feel disrespected, I'm doing air quotes here, but you can't see me. When I feel disrespected, I think, well, what is it that I'm actually truly feeling? feel for who I know who have autism and who struggle getting a job, or who struggle being in these positions of accidentally always coming across as disrespectful, not because they are, but just because they're being themselves, and they're being open and honest and blunt, and they're not necessarily getting clued into this magical word of respect which like floats around every job place you go to, not even every job place, but every hierarchy you go to. And so I really feel for that. Like I feel for being in that position, and I feel like that's just one more barrier for people who are different to exist and occupy these spaces that they typically don't. So I think that's like another reason why I'm so for like, let's remove respect, because let's remove, it removes disrespect at the same time. And I think that's really important. And yeah, I feel like that would probably sum up why I hate the word respect. I don't hate it, but it's just like, I think if we can just always be doing little things in our language to make the world a more welcoming place for other people, but also to make it less hierarchical. Oh, there's a big pelican flying past. Look at him go! Beautiful. I love watching them glide. But if we can be doing what we can to make the world less hierarchical, make our relationships with people less inherently hierarchical, and also making the world like a more welcoming space for everybody, then I think that if that just means removing respect from our language, like I'm down for it. But if you are like, this shit sounds whack as hell, sure, totally fine. You can totally have that opinion. I don't respect you for it. But I would just challenge you to, have a think. Like the next time you use the word respect, have a think about what you actually mean. Have a think about if you mean a deeper emotion than respect. And also, the next time you interact with somebody who's in a position above you, have a think about that hierarchy. Have a think about whether you really like it or not. Have a think about whether you feel like that hierarchy is oppressing you. And sure, sometimes you might like a hierarchy, sometimes you might like a boss, and other times you might not. And that's about why. Have a think about what makes that different. And that concludes my talk, my TED talk, and we have caught no fish, like usual. I'm gonna let you guys in a little secret. I actually don't really want to catch a fish. I actually fully do not know what I'll do if I catch a fish, and I just use fishing as an excuse to sit down at a pretty spot for like 2 hours, and to sit down with all my friends and to talk to them. So I'm kind of glad we haven't caught a fish. Yay! This one's gay. It's pink. That's the one I would eat if I was a fish. Oh shit.